30 years ago, hardly anybody in the world knew about Estonia, this small Baltic country tucked in the middle of nowhere. People often confused it with Russia, but 30 years later, Estonia has turned out to be one of the most digitally advanced nations in the world. It has some of the highest number of startups per capita in the world, and there is a line of unicorns that just keeps turning out from this small country. Estonia is attracting top talent from across the world, but what is it like actually living in this small Baltic country? My name is Manan and I have been living in Estonia for the past 8 years, and in this video I want to mention the 3 biggest pros, benefits, and 3 biggest cons, drawbacks of life in Estonia as a foreigner. So let's begin. Benefit number 1, peace. Estonia is one of the most peaceful countries that I have ever seen. In 2022, the Global Peace Index ranked Estonia number 33 out of more than 160 countries. And you can certainly see that in the country itself. I mean, there is hardly any crime. You see young little school-going children just walking across the road, taking public transport and going to schools. This is extremely surprising for somebody who comes from a developing country where you always need to be on the lookout for somebody who might mug you, and you shouldn't go out at night to some deserted place or anything. But in Estonia, there is no such worry or fear like that, and it is something that you truly start to value once you come here. And I've heard from many other expats who actually went away from Estonia but then actually came back to live in this country for this very same reason. Benefit number 2, nature. I know Estonians are probably tired of hearing this, but Estonia has beautiful nature. More than half of the country is filled with forests, and it has a number of different bogs and lakes and islands that you can just go and keep exploring. And it's not just the fact that Estonia has a lot of, scenic beauty, but actually the Estonian nature is a huge part of Estonian culture and the Estonian personality itself as well. A lot of their rituals, a lot of their yearly excursions to the forest to collect berries and all these things are just their ways of expressing their admiration for the nature and how closely they are tied to it. So when you come to Estonia, this is certainly one thing that you can look forward to, and if you are a nature person, then I am sure you will definitely love it. And the third and one of the biggest benefits that Estonia has to offer is the lack of bureaucracy and paperwork. Now, there's almost all of the government services I can access online. I mean, from medical records to taxes to government services to documentation, everything that I need to do, I can just sit on my laptop, add my, digital ID card, put in my PIN number, and then just enter the environment and do all of these things that probably would take ages to do in any other country. This is one area where Estonia ranks far above other even more advanced countries like, for example, Germany, where bureaucracy can be a serious pain. You can even vote online in Estonia, and that recently happened in the latest elections that Estonia had. Alright, coming to the second part of the video where we discuss the drawbacks of the country. Now, the number 1 con of living in Estonia by far is the weather. And by weather, I mean not just cold, because it is cold for the majority of the year, but also a severe lack of sun. I mean, the sky is cloudy majority of the year. You hardly get any sunlight, and it can severely affect you. Now, this is something that can become a deal breaker for many people. In December, for example, the average amount of sunlight that you can get in Estonia is 6 hours, which is ludicrously low, and you actually have to take vitamin D pills to replenish your natural supply, which comes from sunlight. So yeah, weather is a huge drawback, and if you're not prepared for it, then it can affect you both physically and mentally, so be prepared for that. Drawback number 2, integration in Estonia is difficult as a foreigner. Now, that is no surprise. Firstly, the Estonian language is not easy. It is very difficult if you're coming from any other country, and that can be a huge problem because Estonians generally like people who speak Estonian. The second thing is the Estonian society as a whole. Now, Estonian peoples overall, in general, are cold and they're reclusive. Like, they like to keep with themselves. So it is very difficult to make friends with them, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of initiative on your part as a foreigner if you want to become friends or become a part of their social scene. Now, of course, the newer generation is quite open, and there is a huge change that I have seen between people who are younger, people who have gone abroad and who have come back to Estonia as well. There is a huge difference between Estonians who have lived here their whole life and Estonians who have moved abroad and then come back. But overall, I think it would be a huge challenge for any foreigner to come here and then try to integrate in the society. It's definitely not easy. The society as a whole is still quite conservative, and especially when it comes to people who are non-European, it can become a challenge. I'm not saying that there is racism or any discrimination, but there is still a long way to go before any foreigner can become part of the Estonian society and can call themselves an Estonian after learning the language and, of course, doing all of these things. So that is a drawback. And number 3, the final drawback of being in Estonia is, of course, the lack of opportunities for non-IT folk. Now, Estonia is a huge employment place and a very good market for people who are definitely in the sector of IT and information technology and programming and coding and data sciences and all these things. But if you move a little bit outside, there is a huge discrepancy. I mean, the level of salaries between IT professional and non-IT professionals is quite large, and which means that if you are coming to Estonia with a non-IT profession, it can become quite a bit challenging, and that even includes professions like, for example, mechanical engineering or civil engineering or electrical engineering, or even professionals like medical professionals, because then you need to pass the language exam and then you need to know the language, which is not the case, for example, if you are an IT programmer. So that is a big drawback, and I often advise people who come to me for advice is I usually tell them that if you are from an IT background, if you or your spouse or any one of them is from the IT background, then it is the best place to be. And if you are from a non-IT background and that sort of forms the majority of your income or your career, then probably there are better places that you could consider that you could move to if you want to excel in that career. Unfortunately, Estonia does not have many opportunities for non-IT folks. So there it was, the list of 3 pros and 3 cons of living in Estonia after 8 years. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, then please put them in the comments below. I look forward to reading them all. Thank you, and please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.